Can I put one of these lights on my grid?
No.
Yeah, no, you don't want to highlight that any more than it already is.
What the fuck?
Hello and welcome to Talking Reds from the Anfield app. It's Tuesday morning, Liverpool are top of the Premier League. What more can you ask for? I am Dan Austin, this is Josh Sexton. And seen as though the regular domestic European football, etc. has stopped and it's the international break, we're going to talk quite a bit about the only thing that we're basically asked about in international breaks, which is who the fuck's injured. Because it turns out quite a few of them are, although maybe it's Blag. So first and foremost, Andy Robertson's going to dentist, which means he cannot captain his nation, which feels like a stretch to me. But basically he's ruled himself out of Scotland's first Euro 2020 qualifier in Almaty against Kazakhstan. Sean's fell off some boxes, so what a brilliant start this is. Maybe he's trying to get the international break off from the Anfield app as well, and fair play to him if he is.
I feel like we need 360 camera for these scenarios, to be honest.
There's so many producers falling off stuff in the background. I'm talking Reds lately. Just need a very secure chair over there. So yeah, Andy Robertson's not playing footy for Scotland. What do you reckon?
My head's absolutely gone with that too. No, it's funny, isn't it? Like when I've seen people talking about it on Twitter, like sort of saying, "Oh yeah, Andy Robertson's going to the dentist," but it turns out he's actually got like an abscess below his tooth, which to be honest sounds absolutely horrendous. But like you'd think it's maybe not a thing that can stop you play football so much, apart from when you literally have the surgery done on the day. You feel like it's maybe a thing that you can just.
You could probably just run around the pitch going in pain, and it might even put the Kazakhs off.
It might do, to be honest, yeah. But no, it's quite nice, isn't it, when you hear these little injuries coming up almost just in time for the internationals. Yeah, there's always a worry, particularly with this last international break before the sort of run into the end of the season, that you can get sort of little niggling injuries on international break here and there, particularly given how gruesome the schedule is anyway for most of the players. So it's a bit sort of. It's a bit of a silver lining, isn't it, when they get a little thing, maybe like a little dentist trip in there before they go
I'm
away.
convinced Roberto Firmino is going to fly halfway around the world to South America to play whatever game Brazil are playing in, and he's going to go to Chiche. Sorry, sir, I forgot my kit. Yeah. I can't play. I'll do the cones or something, but that's all I'm doing.
Running around Bolivia in school shoes.
Yeah, a pair of pumps from on property. I mean, it's testament to the kinds of footballer he's become, but also the lad that he is. That first and foremost, he's Scotland captain, and he's going to be a massive miss to them. But also, it's at the point now where you always talk about first names on a team sheet and stuff, and you would think of Van Dijk or Alisson or Salah as Liverpool's most important players. But there's probably an argument that the first name on the team sheet actually is Andy Robertson. Firstly, because there's no real alternative that we ever want to see. Yeah. But secondly, because of the man's sheer consistency. So you can have, yes, Salah's brilliant at football, but you know, he's not necessarily playing at his peak every single week. Where Andy Robertson is either playing at his peak or very, very close to it every time he plays for Liverpool. Yeah,
it's absolute testament. Like it's sort of, you can think of a handful, maybe even you couldn't even count on one hand. I don't think the amount of bad games he's had for Liverpool. He's been massively consistent, and it's testament to the person he is, the character as well. I think when he got appointed Scotland captain, we all knew that we had this nice lad who'd come from Hull, and he'd come from, you know, tweeting about getting a job to be in Liverpool starting left back in Champions League finals and stuff. But he's sort of shown he's even more than that. You saw at the weekend him giving the shirt to the young lad as well. He's really got that sort of working class hero vibe about him, and it's great to see that. And obviously when we did the interview with him, he was talking about the influence that the fans have, and it's nice that we have a player like him, and for the most part a group of players as well who really respect that sort of bond between the players and the fans. And you heard him say himself that he was a Celtic fan, and he used to go and stand on the terraces there as well. And I think that's one of the sort of crucial things of this, is that you feel like the players are people that you can relate to, as well as being lads who will go and win trophies for you, which hopefully they will do this season. There's
a very, very recent Anfield app video podcast with Andy Robertson, which is available on the YouTube channel. He talks an awful lot about the atmosphere at games recently and how Liverpool fans are able to relate to the players and what they can do to try and help Liverpool win a league title. So if you haven't seen that already, just have a little scroll through the YouTube channel. It's not far down. It's from about 10 days, 2 weeks ago, I think. And it's really, really good, so check it out. Xherdan Shaqiri also can't be asked going abroad and kicking a footy about. He's told the Swiss he's not bothering. Yeah. He's in a very weird situation in that he said that the reason he's pulling out is because of a groin injury. He's obviously not been playing for Liverpool very much recently, but he has been in the squad. He's been on the bench and that, so it makes you think that, well, he must be capable of playing football, because if he's not starting and he was injured, you'd just say, oh, well, don't come and we'll have someone else on the bench. But the fact that he's there surely means he's capable of playing, and he's gone from being kind of first man off the bench in the first part of the season and having a demonstrable positive effect when he does it, to not getting a sniff since January, basically.
I like the idea that like all the players were sat in Melwood and Klopp sort of had like the different injuries in a hat, and he's like picking them all out, and he gets to Shaqiri, he's like, oh, yours is the groin, they won't be able to look at that one, will they? Like all the
Robbo, you've got the dentist, that's going to be great, convince them of that, you know, mate.
I like the idea that the Swiss staff are going like, oh, I'm not going to near Shaqiri's groin, you know. No, I'm not asked about that.
Dejan, you've been licking raw chicken again.
Fucking hell, he probably has, to be fair. No, but yeah, it's a bit weird what's happened with the little Shaq fella, to be honest, because like you say, he was the one who you sort of thought that Klopp would turn to change the game off the bench. You think back to the United game in December where he completely turns the game on its head, but now you feel like Adam Lallana and players like that have sort of edged ahead of him in the pecking order, and I'd have always thought that they were two sort of completely different players in their style. I think Lallana's a bit more inclined to sort of carry the ball and chew on the ball a bit, whereas Shaqiri is much more forward-thinking, positive, will play a vertical pass, will have a shot at goal. So it's interesting really that Lallana has gone ahead of him in the pecking order, and it's not to do down what Lallana can do, because I think he was great against Burnley, as most people are giving him credit for, but it's strange what's happened with Shaqiri. You sort of want to see in the coming weeks and months players like him and Keita, who've maybe fallen a bit down the pecking order, to be getting their chance again and hopefully, you know, putting in a few goals, because it was something we expected of them when they came. I think Shaqiri's got 6 for the season, but that the last one, like I say, dates back to United in December, I'm pretty sure. Keita's not got one at all this season. They're both players that you'd expect them to be pushing double figures really each. So to see they've not done that's a bit of a disappointment, but yeah, the game time for them has probably been a bit of an issue so far.
I think what's sort of done for Shaqiri in the last few months is that we're totally committed to the 4-3-3 again, basically, because I think the way Klopp wants him to play is more suited to the 4-2-3-1. Because at the minute, if he was playing, he's playing at the top of a midfield in very much the same area as Roberto Firmino and Mohamed Salah, and probably just getting in the way a little bit. Whereas if he plays in a 4-2-3-1 and he's wide right and Salah's down the middle, it gives him his own area to operate in, it gives him his own game to play, whereas a lot of our game is about just getting the ball to the fast lads as quickly as we possibly can and running at defenders. If you've just got an extra body in there and it's one extra pass or a few extra touches, it can actually be counterintuitive to what you're trying to do. So I think the fact that we've basically got a flat midfield 3 and a flat front 3 at the minute, with maybe one break in the lines, but that's it, sort of does for him a bit, because he's in this sort of halfway house, I think, where he's not quite a full-on forward like the other 3, and he's not quite a midfielder, so he only really makes sense in the 4-2-3-1.
I think he's like going to be a sort of similar position in the way that he takes up to Chamberlain, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with Chamberlain when he comes back as well. But you saw earlier in the season, I think it was at Leicester away when Shaqiri came on and he's playing wide from the right, so you wonder whether, particularly coming off the bench, there's still that sort of inclination to use him there. I agree with what you're saying in terms of the flat front 3, and then maybe Klopp's thought that Origi's is better option there, and then maybe he does a bit of shifting around, because I think Origi's been, you know, superb recently. I think it was Paul Senior was tweeting over the weekend about how Origi's one of the best impact subs that we've had for probably years in terms of his contributions coming off the bench. Not even necessarily scoring, I don't think Paul meant. I think the way that he's running, the way that he's playing for the team. I think against Watford, I know he wasn't a sub in that game, he starts that game, but I thought he sort of really surprised me in terms of the way his running was, the way his defending was, in particular the way he helped Robertson out on that left-hand side was something that I didn't expect to see from his game, because you always sort of think of Origi as a bit of an out-and-out striker, but I think he showed he was much more in that game. So you'd imagine that he is another one, as well as Lallana, who's edged ahead of Shaqiri in the pecking order, and then when Chamberlain comes in as well, it'll be interesting to see where Shaq falls in that.
We'll talk about Salah for a little minute, because it was announced quite a while ago that he wasn't going to be playing for Egypt in this international break, because they have already qualified for the African Cup of Nations, which is taking place this summer, so he's not needed in that sense. The manager said that it was partly to give him a rest and partly because he'd like to have a look at some of the players. First of all, very positive that he's not going and playing 2 meaningless games when Liverpool are at the point in the season that they're in. He's obviously not been scoring goals. It's his longest run without a goal for Liverpool since he arrived, but surely as long as, first and foremost, the likes of Sadio Mane are taking on the goal-scoring mantle, but also he's setting things up like that third one in Munich, we're all going to be all right.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on the Talking Reds the day after the game in Bayern, and he's been playing really well, hasn't he? I think that's one of the things that will go under the radar. I think we probably maybe worry too much about what the outside press will say or what opposition fans will say about our players, and maybe we shouldn't worry as much, but I feel like if they were looking at it and you get all the banter accounts on Twitter, they'll be saying, oh, Salah's not scored in this many games, not scored against these teams. But for me, I'm absolutely fine with his contribution. I think I mentioned in that video that he's almost playing similar in a way to the way that I'd imagine imagine Suarez will play now in the way that he's getting more involved in the game. His goals are obviously not the way that Suarez's were towards the back end of his Liverpool career. I still imagine that Salah will break 20 for this season, but he's getting assists now as well. And you mentioned Mane there, who's just been an absolute revelation, gets his goal again at the weekend as well, and he just seems absolutely unstoppable at the moment. It's like, what's the next brilliant thing that Mane can produce? And you imagine that Salah's time will come again. He just needs to probably start acting on instinct for now, and then maybe we'll have a t-shirt about him messing as well, like we do about the Mane one. If you've not seen that, then go and check out the Anfield app shop as well.
We've got to talk about the two that are coming back then as well. Klopp has spoken about Joe Gomez and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain in very positive terms. Apparently both really quite close to a return now. I think you almost sort of forget how long it's been for Gomez, just because there hasn't been one consistent replacement for him so much. There was Lovren for a bit, then there was Fabinho on Matip, and then back to Matip again. It's going to be a huge boost, first and foremost, to I keep saying first and foremost for some reason, just because I'm thinking of priorities. But it's massive to have Gomez back, because I think as much as Joel Matip has performed very admirably in that role since Gomez's injury, he's just not quite as assured, and you just feel a bit less confident watching him. And Gomez and Van Dijk is the long term, and that's what we all want to see and see it develop. Yeah, absolutely. And we got to see loads of it. Towards the start of the season, it's the partnership that we were all sort of crying out for, I think. And at the best of times, it was just so solid, wasn't it? And like you say, Matip's not really disgraced himself since he's come in. I think he's had his moments, and people will talk about the own goal against Bayern, which he'd been threatening to score that exact goal for 2 months as well.
It was harsh as well, though. Like, I think people talked about it in that sense and said, like, oh, that had been coming, but realistically, if he'd left it, then Lewandowski was he had to get something on it, and it was unfortunate that he put it into his own net, particularly as I thought he had a good game as well, and I think he has.
Second half, he was great.
Yeah, I think he has been solid for the most part as well, but no, it'll be nice to see Joe Gomez come back, and in terms of Chamberlain as well, I think hopefully that both of them will just bring a sort of another dimension to what this team can produce on their day. It will sort of give us a different way of not of playing, because I think the style doesn't change because of them two players, but they offer something a bit different. Gomez will offer a bit more of a sort of stern presence in the back. He'll offer a bit more assuredness on the ball than maybe Matip does, and obviously we've not really got to see much of Lovren. I think he probably offers more of that than Matip does, but he's a bit rash at times as well. I think Gomez has got probably what both of them don't. Chamberlain, you hope, will be the sort of the presence we've been missing in midfield almost, which is the more penetrative one. We're seeing Wijnaldum do it a few times. We've hoped that Keita would do it, but Chamberlain, I think, is the one that's the sort of main fella in our team who can bring that.
I agree with that, but I also think it's very important that people don't get the hopes up too much around Oxlade-Chamberlain, because firstly, just when you've been out for that long anyway, it takes you a long time to find your rhythm again, and he's going to be playing with some new footballers as well that he's never kicked a ball with apart from in training, so he might be in the midfield at some point alongside Fabinho and Keita or something, and he's like, okay, I need to get used to you and you need to get used to me. But also the nature of the injury that he had, the very first time he plays, I think everyone's going to be watching for the first sprint that he does to basically see is he going to be all right, or is he a bit of a different player now, because he's had similar long-term injuries before and always come back well from them, and he's very much improved as a player across his career, and he's never played as well as what he was doing up until the injury for Liverpool last year. But maybe he comes back and his game's just a little bit different, and we all have to get used to it, and maybe the expectations that we have of him being this lad that's going to play at the top of the midfield and run with the ball and be able to play through balls and stuff, we obviously all hope that that's going to be the same. But maybe we have to at least give him time, at least probably give him another summer to get back to that style of player, rather than thinking, well, we're going to be in the European Cup semi-final and we need him, and we need him to play as well as he was last season. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, it was interesting, the reaction to the game he played for the under-23s against Derby, because I think there was a sort of like heavy media presence there, and a lot of people were looking at that game as if like, oh, this is Chamberlain's come back, and then he's sort of feeling his hamstring as he goes off and everyone starts panicking again. And it's like you mentioned there's going to be muscle injuries, there's going to be little sort of tweaks here and there. It's all completely natural for a player who's recovering from that sort of injury. But I think what I'm expecting from him, I don't think my expectations are particularly high, but I imagine he'll make some contributions off the bench this season, which I'm looking forward to seeing. I don't think he'll be sort of breaking out into his full sprints the way he was last season, or the way we've even seen Keita, as I mentioned before, do this season. But I expect there to be some minutes off the bench here and there, and him to offer us something different towards the back end of games, which I think is crucial at this stage. Well, that's enough for injury chat, I reckon. By the way, the capital of Kazakhstan is Astana, not Almaty, and every time you've been talking, I've been trying to think think what the actual capital of Kazakhstan was because it was wrecking my head. And I'm sat there going, I think that's Tajikistan or Uzbekistan or whatever. So sorry for the Central Asia-based confusion there. I'm sure someone in the comments would have called me a fucking idiot or something, so I'm glad I've corrected myself.
Do that anyway.
Yeah, go on. But just because the actual Liverpool footy has stopped doesn't mean that the stuff we make does. We're about to go and record 2 or 3 podcasts after this, which will all be out on the Anfield App's Tour Player service. If you don't already, this is genuinely the best time to start subscribing. You basically go to theanfieldapp.com/subscribe, you sign up for Tour Player, you get loads and loads and loads of podcasts delivered straight to your phone or whatever podcast app you use, and it's great. And Liverpool are maybe about to win a Premier League and European Cup double, or one of them, or at least challenge for both of them, while we all have a really nice time. So being there with us and listening to all the stuff we get up to and the chat around the footy and stuff is ideal for you right now, I reckon. So if you don't already, make sure you do that. Subscribe on YouTube, hit the notification bell, and thank you very much from Josh. Thank you from me. All the best.